In this demo, we're going to look at automated compliance reporting in OCI environments. Manually checking for compliance violations is time-consuming and, frankly, prone to error. OCI provides powerful native services like CloudGuard and the Event Service to continuously monitor your environment for compliance issues and automatically generate reports and alerts, providing a proactive and auditable compliance posture. Now let's talk about events for just a second, because we already took a look at events a little bit earlier in this course. Now in the search bar at the top of the screen, let's type events, and then let's select rules. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to create a rule. Now let's refamiliarize ourselves with what's going on with event rules. Now event rules are a mechanism to have the system continuously monitor for certain things that are happening in the system. So let's say we wanted to make sure that we are aware anytime somebody modifies, creates, or even deletes a policy. So we can create a rule that looks for the service name identity and then a certain event type. And let's say we want to search for policy and we want to know whenever there's a policy create, or we can select policy delete, or we can select policy update. And in fact, in this case, we've created a rule that is going to trigger anytime somebody does any one of those three things, whether the policy is created, a policy is deleted, or an existing policy has been updated. This would trigger this event. Now we can do anything that we want with this event. This is now happening in real time. We're going to be notified the moment this particular event happens. Now, what do we do with that notification? Well, one thing that we could do when this event rises is to simply be notified. We can get an email that comes to us that says, hey, somebody's gone and done one of these three things, or we can have an automated action happen. So if we scroll down to the actions section, we'll notice that we can select various action types. One of them is notifications, and this is where we would select what's called a notification service topic, and we can select our specific topic to be notified when this event happens, or we can select functions, which will execute an OCI function that you create that will perform a specific action whenever that happens. Now you can imagine certain OCI functions that automatically shut certain things down, or they automatically perform certain actions here or there based on, of course, the specific event that happens. Now, functions are generally preferable in a regulatory environment to notifications. You probably want to do both. So you want to be notified that this has happened so that you're aware and you can do something about it, but you also want to have some automation in place so that the responsiveness is immediate, as opposed to getting an email, having to make sure that you're checking your email, and then doing something once you do see that email. A bunch of time may have passed between the event and you actually taking action. Whereas with OCI functions, there is no time in between. The action happens immediately. Okay, so that's rules and that's events, and that allows for real-time monitoring and actions. But there is another tool that you can use, and it's called OCI CloudGuard. So at the top of the screen in the search bar, let's look for CloudGuard. Perfect. And let's select the CloudGuard service. And now this is going to bring us to CloudGuard. If you don't have CloudGuard already enabled, there's a simple button. You click Enable, and it will become enabled for whatever compartments you want. Once CloudGuard is enabled, OCI starts doing a whole bunch of monitoring for you. And so in the overview screen, we can see a variety of bits of information about our specific compartments, whether or not there's any active problems, whether or not there's any security recommendations, any sort of responders that you might have in place and what their current status is, and then various other bits of information. So we can see that I even have a security score trend line. Now this can be important because if I do have recommendations and I do have risks associated to the compartment that is being monitored by CloudGuard, I will take some corrective action and make my compartment safer. And of course, my security score is going to change as a result. But we don't want to say this is just what my score is, the end period. We do want to see what it was in the past so that we can see that it's getting better or even if it's getting worse. Now, with CloudGuard, other things that we can do is we can click on alerts, And this is going to show us all of the recommendations and all of our problems. And of course, this is a really good place to be. If we do have some regulatory problems or recommendations, then we can use this screen to see what they all are and then take the corrective action based on the items that were in fact found. And of course, we can see all of our past items as well. We can see different compartments. So in fact, if I open up the status pull down and I select resolved or I select dismissed, I can see all of my past problems and recommendations that maybe have already been resolved or that we decided aren't important to us and we've dismissed them entirely. And if we go back to CloudGuard, we can see that there's even a threat monitoring section, which is going to evaluate our system and determine if there's any threats and what our risk score is. So there you have it. In this demo, we went over how to use a various combination of OCI services to build powerful and automated compliance reporting frameworks, giving you continuous visibility and control over your environment. Great job.